Peach and Love Records.
With his bed-ins and bagism, the final years of the Beatles saw John Lennon transform himself from rock superstar to peace politician and counterculture leader. Since his pairing with avant-garde artist Yoko Ono in 1968, John cut loose from the Fabs to use his art as a means for peace. From his infamous bed-ins in Montreal and Amsterdam to Toronto's Peace Conference and beyond, John selflessly used the attention pushed on him by the media to raise awareness of the anti-Vietnam movement and the protest of Britain's smoldering involvement in Biafra. 1968 to 1970 was an incredible time for John on the musical front. With the Beatles, he would record Let It Be and the pop masterpiece Abbey Road. With Yoko, he would release a solo album, Two Virgins, the controversial cover depicting a free-spirited couple stark bollock naked, which deeply shocked even his Beatle mates. Forming the Plastic Ono Band, the inseparable couple continued to work on their solo material, releasing the highly successful singles Cold Turkey and Give Peace a Chance, a pacifist anthem readily embraced by the politically charged 60s youth. John's political agenda continued, too, in the early 70s, ultimately battling the U.S. government itself when J. Edgar Hoover's intensely aggressive, overtly paranoid FBI empire singled out Lennon as a political enemy. John was to be deported. In 1976, however, after a relentless 5-year struggle, Lennon was finally granted a green card. Meanwhile, John was releasing some of his best material to date. John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band, Imagine, Sometime in New York City, Mind Games, and Rock and Roll demonstrated Lennon's unyielding popularity and continual artistic growth. After the birth of the Lennons' only child together, Sean Ono Taro, John's life took a new turn as he retired from the biz to stay home to mind his family and bake bread. Lennon's so-called retirement lasted nearly 5 years before mounting a huge comeback with the release of the eclectic Double Fantasy in November of 1980. The song Just Like Starting Over documented both John's return to music and reaffirmed his deep love for the often difficult Yoko. For a fleeting moment, Lennon was back and bigger than ever. On December 8, 1980, however, John Lennon's majestic and turbulent life came to a violent and tragic end as he was gunned down outside his New York home by an obsessed loner who only the day before had been photographed with the kindly former Beatle. The world will forever lament the loss of John Winston Ono Lennon. His words and music, both with the Beatles and on his own, will continue to speak to, enlighten, and give heart to generations to come. His voice and image are now eternal, never allowing us to forget his great charm, tenacity, humor, wisdom, and, of course, musical genius. Towards the end of his term with the Beatles, John Lennon was heavily involved in protesting for a kind of generic peace with his new wife Yoko. Among the major PowerPoints of the Western world, Canada alone welcomed the admittedly fairly outrageous couple, even eventually arranging a meeting between the Lennons and then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. In this world exclusive, John and Yoko meet the press in Toronto at the Ontario Science Centre to bang the drum for their various peaceful initiatives.
It's like saying, why bother keeping on Christianity because Jesus got killed or something? You know, we don't think people have tried advertising before. You know, we think advertising is it, you know, and if we can start there, you know, I mean, if anybody brings out a new product, say, pretend Peace is new then, because we've never had it, they start advertising, it's sell, 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 you know, and whatever gimmickry and irrelevancies that are going on during the advert, it's the drink or the car they buy at the end of it, whether there's chicks in it and white horses and snow and all that. The product sells, and we believe in selling, you know.
So we need the Yoko on this?
Yeah, ask her anything you like.
Well, I'll go ahead.
I was going to ask, if the whole idea is to advertise, why you're almost a semi-recluse when you're here in Canada so far?
When? Well, I've been here one day. I wouldn't call that a semi-recluse, and you know, we got up this morning and here we are. Like,
The rest of the week?
we'll probably see press, you know.
John, a few months ago you had a campaign going to have a ship in the Mediterranean, a peace ship in the
Yeah.
Mediterranean. Is this still...
Well, this is like somebody else's gig, and we're helping him with it. He's in New York now, trying to raise money for the ship. We did what we could out of America. We couldn't do much, you know. We could only say, like, we're with you, and you can put our name on the ad and try and use us as best you can. For his plan is he has the ship. He's got a lot of kids to paint it, and he's in New York, and he needs some kind of transmitter which costs a lot. And you know, I'm not like that with him, because I met him for 5 minutes. I liked him. I believe in his campaign, and we've done what we can for him. He's still in New York, and that's still on, you know.
Last time you were here in Montreal, you mentioned that you had the acorns, which were a symbol.
Yeah, King Hussein planted his. You'd like to know. He's the only one.
Is this still part of your campaign? The acorn is still...
Yes, we believe acorn is a seed. We'll keep sending them till everybody's planted one, you know. We sent them to all the world leaders' addresses we could get together. We've had about 20 replies from here and there. I don't know who, so it's no good asking me because I can't remember. But we've had replies saying, yes, thank you, and some just saying, yes, we got it, you know. So the ones who said thank you, we guessed it, sort of peaceniks.
Excuse me, do you intend to go anywhere else in Canada besides Toronto?
We'll go down to Montreal to dedicate these stations to peace in a few days, probably, yes.
How about Ottawa?
That's not on the schedule, you know. We've got till the 23rd, unless there's a strike on the planes.
We're trying to arrange a meeting with the Prime Minister again, as we did last time. If we can arrange it, would you be interested in coming to Ottawa?
Yes, of course we would, but we don't want to hassle him, you know, and press him into things, because obviously if our life's anything to go by, his is a lot more delicate and pressurized, probably. And I don't want to do all this, you know, they're going to give him acorns, they're going to do this, because that spoils it. I'd rather not talk about it. If it's possible, of course we'd enjoy it, you know.
You're in Toronto until when?
Well, as far as we know, we're here till Friday.
And then back to Britain?
Yes, we have something going at Christmas in Britain.
We might
you know.
come back to Toronto again.
We'll probably come to Toronto on the way back, you know.
What are your plans in Britain?
We've been invited by some guy at Rochester Cathedral to do a 2-day fast over the 24th and the 25th. So we're going with him, you know. We have a hard time making people think we mean what we say in Britain, you know. It's like your parents trying to say, look, I want my hair long. What?
Remember the old cabin days where
yes.
Do you think the kids today are really interested in peace as they were in the olden days?
Well, I don't know what they're interested in the cabin,
I think
you know.
they're getting to be very interested.
I mean, we consider this that, like, we're in the cabin now, we're in that stage, you know. We haven't got out of Liverpool yet with this campaign. And we've got to break London and then America, you know, it's like that. And I feel exactly the same as I did then about the Beatles as I do about peace and what we're doing now, you know. And I don't care how long it takes and what obstacles there are, we won't stop, you know.
Is there any one thing which started on this peace campaign, one incident you've been it down to?
Pardon?
Is there any one incident that got you started on this peace campaign?
Well, it built up over a number of years, but a sort of thing that struck it off was we got a letter from a guy called Peter Watkins, who made a film called The War Game, and it was a long letter stating what's happening, who's got, you know, how the media is controlled, how it's all run, everything that sort of everybody knows, that bit. But he sort of said it in black and white for hours and hours on pages, and it ended up, what are you going to do about it?
What are you
He said sort of people in your position and our position, because he's a sort of filmmaker, or have a responsibility especially to use the media for world peace. And we sat on the letter for 3 weeks thinking, well, we're doing our best, and you know, all you need is love, man, and all that. But finally we came up and with the bed event after that, and that's what really sparked it off, you know. It was like getting your call-up papers for peace. We got it, and we sat on it for 3 weeks while we worked out what to do, and then we did the bed event.
Is there any significance to these black clothes you wear?
We just like them, you know. We like black and white, and they're warm. And I bought this in Montreal.
Biafra.
Biafra, where are you? Well, yeah, hi. Well, you know what we think about Biafra, you know, and it's, we think, we want to try and make Britain aware of its responsibility in Biafra, and that's what we're about, you know. like in your own village, you know, and our village happens to be the West, really. And of course we want to go to Russia and Czechoslovakia. We have to decide how we go and what we go as, you know. They don't really probably know much about us there. Do we just get on a train and arrive in Moscow as tourists, or do we try and take this peace festival? I think that might be a good way, you know. But the world is quite large still, and we've got to sort of get a good team going here first, and then when we're a bit organised, maybe we can go over there. I'd like to go somewhere over there so as to stop that question arising again before the end of 70, you know. I think there's a chance we might go to Czechoslovakia, and there's a good chance we can take this peace festival to Russia, I think. You know, I believe they might allow pop stars in, you know, to sing and play now. And I've heard it's easier to get in there than the States.
John, have you ever considered taking a financial request to the establishment, for example, a man like Henry Ford II?
Sure. When we get a bit organised, see, what we didn't want to do was become leaders. I believe in that Wilhelm Reich guy who says, don't be a leader, you know. We don't want to be the person people say, it was your fault we didn't get peace, or it was your fault this happened, you know. We want to be part of it. Like the people said the Beatles were the movement. The Beatles were only ever part of a movement. We were influenced as much as we influenced. And John and Yoko refused to be the leader of the youth movement for peace.
That's dictatorship.
That's dictatorship, you know. We want everybody to help us. We're just saying, listen, this is our flag. It's a white flag. You know, anybody else in the game. And then if we can get something together, it takes time to sort of, for this kind of news or anything to get through to, say, Henry Ford or Onassis, anybody like that, because they'll be reading last year's papers or whatever, or the financial page or whatever it is, and they probably still think I'm on tour with Paul or something like that. If when we get something functional and organised, and a few people that aren't just John and Yoko, like Rabbi here, and a few other, what if you don't mind me calling you straights, you know, we can approach from that angle and say, listen, man, we've got so much money, will you double it? You know, because we know they all do charity for whatever reason.
The point is, you won't call them this trip over.
Not this trip over, but of course I think of that, you know. There's a lot of money around. You know.
Do you believe in God?
Yes. I believe that God is like a powerhouse, like where you keep electricity, you know, a power station, and that he's a supreme power, but he is neither like good nor bad nor left, right, or black or white. He just is, and that we tap that source of power and make of it what we will. Like electricity, you can kill people in a chair, or you can light the room with it. I think God is. Leaders and father figures are the mistake of all the generations before us, and that all there was that, because we rely on Nixon or we rely on Jesus or whoever we rely on.
Sign of weakness.
It's lack of responsibility, that you expect somebody else to do it. Oh, it's, you know, he must help me, and if he doesn't help me, we kill him,
Yes,
or we vote him out.
else, yeah.
Well, you know, I think that's the mistake, just having father figures. But to be a leader, you have to say, you know, have the badge, you know, it's physical like that. You know, as long as we keep moving about, we will never be leaders, you know.
I mean, you're the leader, you know, everybody in this room, you know, must lead the next world.
It's just that, you know, the Beatles were never leaders, but people imagined they were, but now they're finding out, you know. And I won't be a leader, you know, and leaders are people that, you know, you just, it's okay, I will be then. You know, and they have the badge on. Well, I'm not doing that. Peace, just no violence, and everybody grooving, if you don't mind the word. You know, just no violence. And maybe, of course we all have violence in us, you know, we must channel it or something. And maybe for the people that have to kill, I saw a TV program where all the killers had a big club, and they were allowed to kill each other. You know, so we give them somewhere and let them do it, you know. Let them kill each other. I just think it shouldn't impose on me. Like, if I have long hair, I don't see why everybody else should have long hair, you know. And if I want peace, I'll suggest peace to everyone. I'll try and hustle them up, but I won't beat them up for peace, you know. And if people want to be violent, let them not interfere with people who don't want violence. Let them kill each other, if there has to be that.
John, you said your hope was in youth.
Yes.
Are you optimistic about youth in terms of emergence of movements such as the skinhead movement in Britain?
The skinhead is an irrelevant movement, you know, that gives the press something to write about. I mean, when I was a kid, there were Teddy Boys, and that was quite a movement, far larger than the skinheads. The skinheads are just there's only about 200 of them, if anything, in the whole of Britain, and they just have a good image for writing about, you know. But they're not important.
What do you think will happen when the young people will be tired to fight for peace that they won't get?
Well, they have the alternative, you know. You either get tired fighting for peace or you die, you know. That's the alternative.
What do you think is done? What do you think about the statement where he says he hasn't granted interviews because you're simply being used to sell papers?
Who?
Bob Dylan said that, Rolling Stone.
Oh, well, I don't know, you know. Bob's a home-loving lad at the moment, you know.
You visited most parts of the world. What continent have you not?
Yeah, I was going to say Africa, but we passed through Egypt and that kind of thing. I really don't know. Russia.
Passed through was the only thing you've ever touched on Africa?
I think so. Yes, yeah. You know,
It's been an accident.
Is Russia a continent? I'm not very educated.
Asia, Europe.
Africa's the only place I haven't really been around, you know.
A lot of things to be done there, aren't there?
Yes, yes. A car race? Is it? I don't know, you know. Oh, what's this about a car? No, there's no race. The race is for peace.
Are you still involved in Eastern philosophy as you were?
Well, I don't know quite what it is, you know. I mean, if I'm involved in anything, I'm involved in Yoko's version of Zen Buddhism, you know. And all those philosophies have good basis and they're right, you know. It's like all the religions are right too. I just haven't the time nor the capability of reading through 2 million years worth of philosophy, because the answer is yes and now and all that.
How about meditation?
Meditation, occasionally I use it, you know. It's like anything. I'm not a very good get up in the morning and do your exercise. Meditation is a mental exercise. It works all right. It does all they say it does. Now the thing I use to attain the state that meditation got me to is diet.
Diet.
Yes.
And our mantra is peace, naturally, you know.
Yes, we've adopted that and used peace as the mantra, you know.
Were you in India just recently on holiday?
Yes, we went to Greece and India, yeah.
Your campaign seems so big and so general. Have you not thought of the idea that if you zeroed in on one specific problem in the world, you might find you were more effective?
I don't know. You mean like just say concentrate on the Israeli-Arab war or something like that?
Yes.
You know.
But the world is getting very small.
I don't think it's. I think we have to gather all the positiveness from everywhere and then let them, if it's mental or whatever way, concentrate on each individual case. It's like we believe in prevention rather than cure, and we'd like to be able to concentrate on both, you know, like cure the cancer patients in hospital. But we really are after prevention, you know. It's unfortunate about the people that have got cancer now, but we hope there's enough people we can help or that are helping, that with what we're doing anyway can concentrate on areas. But we believe in just trying to, maybe it's wrong, you know, but we believe in trying to prevention, you know. We've really got the next generation in mind.
There's a report that you've agreed to do or be the subject for a picture article, photography article in Avant-Garde magazine in the spring. Is that true?
They're doing something on the lithographs I've done. That's what it is.
Oh, I see. It's not photographs of yourself.
No, it's drawing.
If the looming airline strike occurs that keeps you in Toronto over December 24th, will you be making any appearances at the 2 or 3 peace vigils in Toronto that day?
Well, we haven't heard about them, but we're open to offers, you know. We were thinking if we're stuck here, how can we still carry on, be with the people in Rochester? So if there's something going, let us know.
Is there any reason why you chose this place for your news conference?
These people are organisers here, and they said it's here in this place, and don't tell me it's something. What is it? It's a science place. Isn't it?
At the same time, work on a movement is striving towards a peaceful world. There seems to be an equally strong movement that is graphically illustrated in the States towards maybe peace or harmony from a different point of view. That's through suppression. There's a conspiracy trial going on in Chicago. 28 Black Panthers, even though I can see your opposition and views with them, the 28 Panthers have been murdered. It's beautiful that you're trying to strive towards peace, but things seem to get pretty screwed.
Well, there's 2 points of view about what happened in this last decade, and I take the positive view. I think the moratorium, Woodstock, Isle of Wight, and all those so-called irrelevancies, and the whole youth movement was what happened in this last decade, and not that the Black Panthers were killed, unfortunately, and all the rest of it. I believe this decade was a positive decade and the start of a new age. So I can only answer you with that, you know. I believe it's a positive decade we've just had. And that it's only the beginning of the change. That's the end of the old regime. When they get that desperate, that's desperation, you know. As Yoko says, you never see a killer smiling, you know, and they're into the real insane killing stage now, and it's a drag, but it's the end.
Do you think that the peace movement, the peace committee could be, a substitute for the problem that a lot of young people in society are having today with drugs such as methadone, speed, and things like that? Here in Toronto, for instance, it seems to be getting to an epidemic proportion. We all sort of generally know why, but do you think that there's a way of making peace so important to kids?
What do you think about liquor? Do you think that's always in sort of a proportion and right proportion?
Oh yeah, even worse. But we're all worried about young. That's a great problem for youngsters. They're so frustrated.
But see, I think the drug problem is a hang-up and a drag, you know. But I think had they hadn't had methadone and all the rest of it, they would have been alcoholics, you know, the ones that are going to go through that trip. And that's, you know, if people, everybody seems to need something in the way society is because of the pressure, and it would have been alcohol or something, you know. So the problem isn't what they're on; it's what made them go on whatever they're on.
Yes, you were about that, John. Yes. The best antidote for drug taking and liquor seems to me is hope.
Yeah.
And you're giving young people hope.
The only time we took drugs was when we were without hope. And the only way we got out of it was with hope, you know. And if we can sustain the hope, then we don't need liquor, drugs, or anything. But if we lose hope, you know, what is it all? What can you do? What is there to do, you know?
John, you do achieve that success without would you have achieved that hope without the success of the Beatles?
Oh, the Beatles had nothing to do with the hope, you know. This is after. I mean, the Beatles made it 4 years ago. And they stopped touring, and they had all the money they wanted, and all the fame they wanted. And they found out they had nothing. And then we started on our various trips with LSD and Maharishi and all the rest of the things we did. And the old gag about money and power and fame is not the answer. We didn't have any hope just because we were famous. You see all that, Marilyn Monroe and all those other people, they had everything the Beatles had. That's no answer, you know. So we have the same problems. John and Yoko have the same problems and fears and hopes and aspirations that any other couple on earth does. Regardless of the position we're in or regardless of the money we have exactly the same paranoias of everybody else, the same petty thoughts, the same, everything goes for us. We have no super answer that came through Beatles or through power. You know, the Beatles in that respect were irrelevant to what I'm talking about. You know.
As a result of your position, though, you are in a better position in order to go around the world and
yes.
be able to see these things that other people cannot.
Yeah, but I mean, Yoko wasn't a Beatle. She had the hope and the positive thing and was doing things for peace without being a Beatle. There's plenty of people like her around doing it on a small scale. Big scale isn't the only way to do anything. We think if somebody wants peace or wants to show them for peace, all they need to do is to put a poster in their own window to show their neighbour what they think. It's got to start from yourself and on a small scale. There's never going to be zap peace. You know, all we're trying to say to people is do something about it, think about it, write a letter about it, sing about it, put a poster in your window about it. Just do something about it. Let your friend know, let your wife know, let your children know, anything about it. That's all.
Mr. Lennon, could I have your indulgence for a moment? The questions I want to ask have been asked 1,000 times,
Yeah.
but we just changed roles. We're on our third program.
Okay.
In about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, whatever you like to tell us, could you tell me what peace means to you, how it came to hit you, and what you're trying to prove, and realistically what you hope to accomplish?
Right.
Not specifically here and now, but what you're hoping to accomplish in putting over peace.
How we got into it, I'll start with. Both Yoko and I were in different bags, as we call it, but both had a positive side. Like we were singing All You Need Is Love, and she was protesting in Trafalgar Square in a black bag for peace. We met. We had to decide what our common goal was. We had one thing in common, we were in love. But love is just a gift, and it doesn't answer everything, and it's like a precious plant that you have to nurture and look after and all that, and so we had to find what we wanted to do together, these two egos. What they had in common was love. We had to work on it. What goes with love, we thought, was peace. Now we were thinking all this and planning on getting married and whether not getting married and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it and rock and roll or avant-garde and all. We went through all that bit, and then we got this letter from a guy called Peter Watkins listing his interpretation of how the media was controlled by money or whatever it is, how TV was controlled, how everything was run, things that a lot of people just accept. You know, it's run. You know, we can't get in and say our bit. The people that haven't got the openings like us. And this letter was like the call-up paper, only in reverse. This was the call-up for peace. At the end of an 11-page letter, it says, you know, it's people in our position, responsibility, who have access to the media to try and put over positive messages or help do positive things about it. So we lay around with the letter for 3 or 4 weeks, and it was on our conscience all the time. And I was saying, well, look, we did All You Need Is Love, Telstar, all over the world. That was it, wasn't it? She's saying, I was in Trafalgar Square, and, you know, and I nearly got kicked and all that. But it still wasn't enough. It wasn't as much as we could do, obviously, from what we've done now. But we finally said, all right, what can we do together? We're not going to go on. Yoko can't come on with the Beatles and sing about peace. I certainly am not going to stand in Trafalgar Square in a bag because I'm frightened. You know, if they know it's me, I'll get kicked. So we went through every possible way of doing an event or doing something for peace, and we came up with a bed event.
Early in 1970, the Lennons joined Yoko's ex-husband Tony Cox, his new wife Melinda, and daughter Kyoko at a rural farmhouse in Jutland, Denmark, for several days of decompression after jetting around the world promoting peace with their various bed-ins and bag events. After about a week, however, they decided to meet with select members of the International Media Corps to update them on what they were thinking and feeling. Here is the result.
We have all heard a lot of rumors about your visit. Yeah, you have too. Can we get the truth about your visit here in Denmark?
I've heard 2 rumors. I just heard a new one today from the Daily Express that I bought 70 acres of land here. Every country I go to, the press seem to think I'm going to buy 70 acres of land. I've just been to Greece recently and they thought I was going to buy land there, and Canada, wherever. I've got no other land except for some in England and Ireland. And we came to see Kyoko, you know. And to see Tony and Melinda, of course, but Kyoko was the axis point of coming, you know. And we've had a nice 7 days of peace.
What kind of man are you really?
I'm a nervous guy, you know.
Do you and Yoko believe in peace in our time.
Yeah. The thing is, we had this poster that says, war is over if you want it. We all sit round pointing fingers at Nixon and the leaders of the country saying, he gave us peace or he gave us war. It's our responsibility what happens around the world, in every other country as well as your own. It's our responsibility for Vietnam and Biafra and Israel war and all the other wars that we don't quite hear about. It's all our responsibility, and when we all want peace, we'll get it. I support humanity, you know. I don't belong to any left wing, right wing, middle wing, black Panthers, white Christians, Protestant Catholics, or nothing. People have said we are naive for trying to sell peace like a bar of soap. But I want to ask you, is Mr. Ford naive? Or the soap powder factory naive? They're selling the same old soap that's been around for 2,000 years, but it's new blue soap, so we're selling new blue peace. And we hope some of you buy it, you know. The war is here now. And there's two ways of looking at it. Some people say, why don't you spend your money on posters or peace campaigns? Why don't you give it to the Biafran children or something like that? And we say, we're trying to cure cancer, we're trying to prevent cancer and not cure it.
But did you spend all your money?
No, I was saying...
They said that the Beatles made a lot of money.
No, yeah, but the people around us made more money than the Beatles did, I'll tell you that. None of the Beatles are millionaires. But there's a lot of millionaires that became millionaires around the Beatles. You know the story.
How long is it big?
I don't know. We play everything by ear, you know. We try not to make plans. I don't really like knowing what I'm going to do for the next 8 months. And we just stay until it was time to go back and do some work, you know.
You feeling comfortable out in the...
Oh, it's beautiful, you know. It's beautiful, and all the snow and everything's beautiful. We go walking in the garden and all that's beautiful. Or whatever, the farm or something.
Today's fantastic.
Oh yeah, and all the colours and the sky and the mist and it's just a fantastic place, you know. And good vibes, as they say in this generation. Very good vibes around. And just the people we met very few, you know, but they're straight, you know. They're not as paranoid as in the big cities, you know, and in other countries. They're less paranoid in Denmark.
In this rare piece, John and Yoko speak candidly with a Dutch reporter during their Amsterdam bed-in for peace held at the posh Hilton Hotel.
Some of the people are equal, but some of them are more equal than others, as you know.
Yes.
I'd like to ask
they're
you...
all infinite. They all have equal possibility.
You would subscribe to that, without philosophy, because I'm not much of a philosopher.
No, me neither.
If you see all this, you tend to think that sensibility has gone out of it all, isn't it? You see this whole humdrum of reporters and photographers and filmers.
I think there's something, it's always something beautiful about it, you know, because all on the Beatle tours and everything like that, there was always some, you know, people had laughs, so a few of the reporters had a good time, you know, they got the right photograph or the right interview, and we always had a laugh because there's always some photographer fell over or got the wrong picture or something.
And also, you know, there are many people in the world who are sensible enough, when you report it, you know, they will see, you know, and it's good.
No, he means that this is a madhouse, you know, but everything's too serious.
You're sitting here and saying those were the days, my friends.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it gives some kind of an impression that you have a very sensible, very grown-up approach to this whole thing.
Well, you know, I'm pretty old now, and she's pretty old, but we've got a sense of humour, you know.
Yes.
And that's what this is about, partly, you know.
And the world needs sense of humour, I think, you know, more than anything else, because the world is getting more and more violent and tense, you know. So instead of becoming violent about it and say, stop the war or something with violence, it's better to sort of say, let it spring, you know, let's stay in bed, you know, etc. It's a laugh, you know.
The thing, though, that flabbergasts Dutchman a bit is, what do you see in Holland as a honeymoon country?
It's a beautiful place, and Amsterdam's a place where a lot of things happen with the youth, you know. It's an important place, you know. Everywhere's important, but Amsterdam's one of them, and there's a few centres in the world. Amsterdam's one of them for youth.
Many alive, vitally alive youth, you know, with high ideas and everything.
And the Provos and the white bicycles. I mean...
Are those ideas that appeal to you?
Yes, the more peaceful are the ideas that the youth have, you know. And if we have any influence on youth at all, we'd like to influence them in a peaceful way, you know.
And communicate with them, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
say hello to them. We're here to say hello to people in Amsterdam or Holland. Yeah.
Your approach towards life is somewhat in a non-conformistic way. Now, what do you see in a so conformistic institution as marriage?
Because intellectually, we know marriage is nowhere, that a man should just say, here, you're married, when we've been living together for a year before it. But romantically and emotionally, it's something else. It's like when our divorce papers came through, it was a great relief, you know, and we didn't realize how much of a relief it was going to be till Peter came up and said it's over. And it was only a bit of paper saying it's over. We'd made the marriage over by living together while we were still married to the other two people. But just the fact that somebody said it is over was a relief, and the fact that we got married was another kind of, not relief, just a kind of joy, and it was very emotional. The actual marriage ceremony, we both got very emotional about it, and we're both quite cynical and quite hard people, but very soft as well, you know, so everybody's a bit both ways, and it was very romantic, you know.
I should like to have your reaction on this, Mrs. Lennon. That's the way you are called now.
Beautiful.
I got this ring, you know, and of course a ring is, to many people in contemporary world, is a laugh maybe, but you know, I sort of broke down, you know, I felt so good about it. And it's actually, when I think of it, it's an old ritual, but a very functional, basic ritual, you know. I mean, it has a lot to do with sex, etc., you know, sort of putting this in and say, well...
Stop it.
But don't, it's kind of joking. It's kind of loose, though.
You know.
Yes, we're having it fitted here.
I might as well ask you my last question now. You were talking about marriage as an institution, and now the $64,000 question is, what about the kiddies?
Well, we were thinking we might be nice if we conceived one in Amsterdam, you know. We might call it Amsterdam or Peace or Hair or Bed or something. It'd be beautiful, you know.
Yes.
My position on violence is I don't believe in it. I think we all have violent tendencies. I think it can be channeled. I think violence begets violence, as proved by the various marches and things that always end up with cops and people getting beaten up, or cops beating up people, or whatever it is. And I think marching and placards was okay for the 30s when people wanted bread, and then it sort of had some impact on people. But nowadays people are blasé about war, and they're blasé about placards and marching. And I think there's many ways of protesting, and this bed-in is one of them. It mightn't suit you, but you think of your own idea. That's all we're trying to do, is make you aware that there are other forms of protest. And if you do a non-violent protest, like some guy said happened in Berkeley, and then you get beaten up, well, that means it's like sitting on the seashore and you went in the deep end, or you went where the current was. So you've had the warning that this place is dangerous to swim in. So you retire, think about it, and make your next move. Don't make the same move again, because then they're going to beat you again.
Mr. Lennon, how about in 1941, 1939, when Hitler was in power, the Americans came to the aid of the British nation. Would you have preached your philosophy to the American people then, saying don't practice violence, don't enter the war?
I would have preached it to Hitler.
Would you have succeeded, do you think?
I can't speculate.
Well, if I were Hitler's girlfriend, you know, things would have maybe changed. And really, you know, when I say that, I mean, you know, the reason why there's war, or the reason why this is dictatorship, is because people don't communicate enough, and people don't give love enough, you know. If everybody loved Hitler, you know, I mean, love meaning just really communicate and open his mind and turn him on and all that, you know, well, he wouldn't be there. He was there because he was isolated. He was there because he had a typical condition of a dictatorship, which is sort of like isolation, and nobody could really communicate with him, you know. So it's everybody's responsibility.
They say Hitler loved children. He was very fond of his nieces and nephews.
A little remnant of the Christ in him, probably.
Well, was there a need, for instance, for the Americans to come to the rescue of Britain after Hitler did come to power? Was there a purpose for that war?
I think probably what happened then was right for that moment.
To divert from.
Oh, it happened, you know. It happened.
So, I mean, if you believe violence would solve the problem, that's up to you. I don't, you know.
No, it's just...
It might have a few instances, okay? But nobody's ever tried the peace thing. Just tell me any sustained peace propaganda or peace non-violent movements that ever lasted.
The civil rights movement in the States.
Yeah, it started off non-violent. What happened, you know? The marches turned into, every time they marched, there was chaos, you know.
Something like John Lennon.
Yeah, right, but I mean, so I think marching's old hat, you know, and it's time to put their heads together and came up with something new. Because they've been marching since the 30s or maybe before, and it was okay for the workers, and marching and placards was where their heads were at. But now it's a different age, you know.
and it's gimmicks and salesmanship. And if that's what will put it across, that's the way to do it. Whether you're protesting against the conditions you live in, or the conditions you work in, or the conditions of the whole world, I think there's better methods to be used. You know, and we're not saying everybody lay in bed. I mean, it'd be a nice idea if they all did. You know, but okay, this is suitable for us. We hope it gives some suggestions for people to say, well, what good's that doing?
It's just a gimmick.
They'll do something else. We're selling it like soap, you know, and you've got to sell and sell until the housewife thinks, oh, well, there's peace or war. That's the two products.
With the tape secreted away in a bank vault for all these years, here are the Lennons during their infamous 1969 bed-in in Montreal, As It Happened.
Well, you see, each time we've come here, we've never known till a week before, so there's never been any plans. It just seems there's always some reason to come, you know.
What about those lithographs? Can you confirm that it's about 15,000 you'll personally be signing? And from what I've heard, are they that erotic, or they might have trouble passing through customs?
I've no idea. That's the publisher's problem, you know. He asked me to do some lithographs. I did them, and they can handle it themselves, you know. I don't.
15,000?
Well, 5,000, sorry.
You're personally going to sign them?
Yeah, with lithographs, you've got to sign them, you know. The printer.
Get back to Biafra for a minute.
Yeah.
Is it true that you were planning on going there a few months ago?
Yeah, at the time Yoko was pregnant and we decided not to go, and she had a miscarriage then, and then we thought about it. And we're scared of going to somewhere where it's happening, you know, because we don't want to be dead saints, you know. And of course Stanley Burke up there is going to talk to us about it, and who knows, you know. But after not going when Yoko was pregnant, we thought. And I'm scared of going to Vietnam and Biafra, and until I'm convinced that I do better there than I can do outside of it, I'll stay out, you know. Like I'd go to Russia, but I'd think twice about China, you know, because I don't want to be a martyr, and unless I'd like to play it safe, you know, and be around.
He did a lot of good, I think, as far as Biafra is concerned, with the returning of NB, you know. I mean, that was the way we did it.
Oh yeah, another. Sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, another thing we're doing with this peace festival thing is to try and set up a peace vote for all the youth in the world, which would be like a, what do they call those? A petition, but it'll be a vote. You just vote for peace or war, and we set up a thing where all the youth vote, or anybody, you know, votes.
Why the cloak and dagger situation yesterday?
What was that? Well, you see, that's our good friend John and Richie there. They arranged for us to come here, and sometimes people arrange for us in one way, and they arrange this way, you know.
You disappointed a lot of fans.
Well, I'm sorry about that, you know, but I just say, you know, they asked us to come, and we said, yes, Joe, we'll come and fix it when you find us somewhere to stay and arrange everything. They arranged it, and that's it, you know. So we're here for peace, you know, and the fans will get there.
And also, you know, we need some peace and quiet too, in order to work,
allow
you
John
know.
and Yoko to go out any other way. It was their instructions. They're worried about plate grass getting broken.
You know, I mean, if people imagine there's Beatlemania going on at the airports and places like that, and it isn't, of course, and there's probably about 50 or 60 kids who we could control. But I can't go to, or people are organising for, we can't say, listen, the man wants to wave to his fans, but, you know, I do what they tell me in that respect, you know. If they say, come through this door, I go and hope it's the right one.
You said you were going to have a sort of vote, peace, war.
Yeah.
How do you answer accusations that that kind of thing is bordering on naivety, that it just isn't as simple as...
Well,
I don't think, let's see, you know, if anybody thinks our campaign is naive, yes,
well, let's
see.
out.
If anybody thinks our campaign is naive, oh, that's their opinion, and that's okay. Let them do something else, and if we like the idea, we'll join in with them, you know. But otherwise, we do it the way we are. We're artists, and not politicians, not newspaper men, and not anything. We're artists. We do it in the way that suits us best, and this is the way we work. Like publicity and things like that is our game, you know. Because I mean the Beatles thing was that, you know, and that's the trade I've learned, and this is my trade, and I'm using it to the best of my ability, you know.
What do you guys have a musical like the tribe? What is the point?
Sorry, what?
What is the point of having this peace war?
Well, why do people have those Gallup polls? Every politician in England saying 84% want hanging, and Nixon saying, we claim the silent majority. Oh, by the way, we claim it. We're claiming the silent majority. Why do they have polls? If we get if we get a vote from around the world of millions and millions of kids that want peace, that's a nice Gallup poll. We can wave those figures around, that's all. It's a positive movement. All we want is a yes.
Have you given any thought to the possibility of using the Peace Festival in the way they are, using festivals in the States now, such as the Earth People's Park, using the proceeds from the festival to buy a piece of land, 1,000 acres or something?
Or any ideas like that, please bring them to us, not here. All suggestions like that. The thing is only in the baby stage now. We've come here to think about it, set it up, only to say that we're setting it up. We've got a place to do it. We hope it'll be well. The stage is going to be a bed. And where the proceeds and how we work that out will be worked out with the help we can get from Rabbi and anybody else that's got more of a sort of organized brain than we have. We're not organizers. That's the kind of help we need. Any ideas like that we're open to what to do with money, if we get any money, and how to use it. We'd have to decide then, but all ideas are welcome. So please approach us through John and Richie, and anything like that we'd do.
I'm sorry, do you think something like hair as a source of entertainment that sells peace is effective?
I think that the hair thing probably did some good, I don't really know. I think it's all right, It was a nice, reflection.
I mean, everything counts as
everything positive is nice. I like it, just the effect it had on people was good, I think.
You ever tried to pitch your colleagues on the Beatles into doing tours that are strictly peace-oriented?
Well, no, because this is the first time there's been an actual peace-oriented idea, a festival for peace. And I'll try and hustle them out, and if maybe I'll get one or two or something like that. I got George on the other night for UNICEF and a lot of other people, so I can't speak for the Beatles because I'm only me, but if I can get them, if I could get Elvis, I'll try and get them all,
Does that mean that Apple isn't necessarily involved in your peace work either?
Well, I'll probably get all the Apple artists to tell you that. But Apple, I'll try and make Apple pay for a few things,
Did you see a festival like the one in California 2 weeks ago where 4 people...
The Stones one, that was bad, and I've heard a lot of things about that concert, and I think it was just a bad scene, and it won't be like that,
But we must be very careful,
Well, I don't know. I mean, I believe in the way a thing is set up and the image the Stones want and the kind of thing they create around them. I think they created that rather subconsciously or whatever, and that is the result of the image and the mood they create. And I think if you create a peaceful mood, you stand a better chance. But we have 6 months to prevent that. The Stones thing was done like that,
John, how's Paul these days?
I haven't seen him for months, he's been on holiday. And
Still alive?
Oh yeah, he's in the Bahamas actually.
What about people helping safe in this area? Just people in Toronto?
Any help that you have or want to give, you contact John Brower or Richie York here, or Rabbi Feinberg, and all channel it through them. They're John and Yoko in Canada, and they're in constant touch with us. Yeah, excuse me about what?
Has most part okayed?
Yes, they have.
John, have you got anything to say about music? Anything coming out first here?
Music? Well, we have an album out today, folks. It should have been out 2 weeks ago, but they hustled it out today.
How about the next Beatles album?
Next Beatles album, January. One after that, March or something,
John?
Plenty of product,
I remember you saying sometime...
Ask EMI.
I remember you saying sometime you thought that we'd have peace by the year 2000. Do you still think that?
Well, I don't want to say, I say by 1970, and then I believe in that positive thinking bit. So I'll try and knock all the negative thought out. Let's say 1970, and then when it's 70, we say, oh, we're wrong in 1971.
That might be over by 99. 1999.
Optimistic.
I think we get it as soon as people realise that they have the power, and the power doesn't belong to Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Wilson, or Mr. Nixon. That we are the power, the people are the power, and that as soon as people are aware they have the power, then they can have what they want, And if it's a case of, well, they don't know or they don't know what to do, let's advertise to them to tell them that they have an option.
What can they do? Like what can we do?
They've got the vote, haven't they?
What can we do? Yeah.
Well, get it, you know. I mean, they're going to get it in England, you know. I mean, you'll have the vote, you know. You will be the establishment. There's no good attacking it and breaking it down because you'll have to build it up again. That's always it.
Were you serious when you said yesterday that you would send a bill to President Nixon?
No, it was I was coming out of London Airport and they said, how much does it cost and all that? And I said, oh, anyway, I'll send the bill to Nixon. It was a joke, you know. It's an idea, but it's a joke.
Back to Biafra for a minute.
Yes.
You said you had planned on going until Yoko was
Well, Yoko was pregnant at the time.
What had you planned on doing in Biafra, if you had...
We'd had an invitation from somebody connected with Biafra, and they wanted us to just go there and film, you know. Publicity is what they want, you know, for their side of the story, and for it to come from somebody that isn't particularly politically one side or the other, somebody independent who could go there, see it, and come out again. That was the idea behind it.
John, can I ask a question about the Beatles?
Yeah.
As a foursome, do you ever expect to perform again? I know you have a bit of a hang-up with Ringo not wanting to perform.
Well, it's like a few months ago, George didn't. Now, he's just been on tour with Bonnie and Delaney and Eric Clapton, you know, and I go off it and on it. And so there's four of us, you know. And I don't know how Ringo feels about it now, but I'm going to try and sew him up for July, you know.
What about the future of the Beatles? Do you expect to remain as a foursome?
I've no idea, you know. I've no idea. If we are comfortable and enjoy being the Beatles, we'll do it. And when we don't, we won't. That's always been the case. For the last 4 years, every time we've made a record, it's been a decision of whether to carry it on from there. Now, the point is, in the old days, Paul and I would knock off an LP and write most of the songs and do it. Now, nowadays, there's three of us writing equally good songs and wanting that much space. And the problem now is, do you make a double album every time, which takes 6 months of your life, or do you make one album, we spend 3 or 4 months making one album, maybe get 2 tracks each? That's the problem, you know. It's just a physical problem, you know, and whether we do it or not, I've no idea, you know.
Your stance so far with regard to peace has been fairly passive.
Yes, we're pacifists.
Yeah. And do you ever fear that your name coupled with the word peace could be used, your very passivity of your personal position of it could be used for other means?
There's always a danger of that, you know. But if anybody tries to use us, we have you people there, and if we find out, we say that man used us, you know, and that's our only protection against being used, is to tell you lot, you know.
John, you said you're a pacifist. Are there any circumstances in which you personally could support a war?
No.
You know, I'm wondering what your attitude would have been, for example, you know, you're a little younger than I am.
Yeah, in
the last
1939.
War, for example,
but if I can only say, don't talk to me about 39, talk to me about 1930. You know.
But the death of 6 million Jews in itself is not...
Yeah, I don't think it was
But it was the responsibility
it was
of
all our
everybody.
responsibility. It wasn't like the Germans, you know. I mean, they're the one that we say, it was Hitler. The Germans say, it was Hitler. The world says, it was the Germans, etc., etc. It was all our responsibility then. And I know for people who were there then and all that, I was only a child being bombed and all that. It is different, but I just don't believe it, you know. I don't believe it. I believe it was all our responsibility before it happened. You know, that's all I can say about it. I don't believe in killing, whatever.
John, how seriously do you consider the possibility that in your pursuit for peace, that your manner of clothing, your hair, would alienate more people than would ever convince you to come over to your side?
I understand that. Many people say, well, why don't you get a butch haircut and an eye-tie suit, you know? And the thing is, that's what politicians do. I try and be as natural as I can in the circumstances. We do. Politicians do that. Now, how many members of the public are gullible to politicians with a nice picture of the family, the dog, and a whore on the side, church on Sunday? Now, I could do that. I don't think people would believe it, you know. That is a politician's way. I don't think youth certainly doesn't believe it anymore. You know, and there's a sort of, we have an intuition about having leaving one gate open. There's an old Chinese saying that if the castle falls from within, say like America's, no communists are going to overrun them. The place will collapse from inside. And that always to leave one door open. If you have every door shut in the castle, the enemy will attack from every side and you stand a chance of losing. If you leave one door open, you can concentrate, they'll concentrate there. Our door is hair, or mentioning cold turkey on the MBE, some kind of irrelevancy to distract, so as the attack doesn't hit us, it hits some irrelevancy. And we try and be natural, you know. If I feel like cutting it, I'd cut it.
We've heard a great deal about hidden significance in some of your records.
Yes.
The thing when you play a certain record backward, it says, "Turn me on, dead man." Is there anything to this symphony?
No, all those things are beyond me, you know. I believe that any, like with this packet, you can read something into that if you want, and nobody sees the same picture. And all lyrics mean everything people want, but there was never any specific "Turn Me On, Dead Man" or the other famous one that I won't repeat, that where you played it backward and got a secret message. Our things are pretty straightforward. What it says, it means just about what it says. If it's imagery, it's imagery. If it's straight lyrics, it's straight lyrics, you know. But of course you can read anything into anything. That's why there's so many versions of the Bible and what happened and all that.
How did the death rumor of Paul get started?
I've no idea. I'm now being credited as a great publicity campaign for the Beatles. Now, if I'd thought of that idea, I don't know how I would have put it into action, and whether I would have done it or not, I don't know. But it's I don't know how it started. It seems to me it started the same way as the guy that resurrected my comment about Jesus and got publicity for himself in his station, and it got out of his hands. I think it's the same kind of thing. Somebody just, I don't know. I can't understand it myself, you know.
Do you think you will have more power within the new generation through a peace movement than trying to change the grown-up people minds? Because the Beatles were touching more the young people that would believe in something new. And as a young grew up, sometimes it changed. Do you think if we can avoid that change through the young people?
Yes, we're aiming at youth. Our hope is with youth, you know, because they will be the establishment, as we've said, so obviously.
And the old people will come around too, we think, you know, if all the young are watching. Say if there's a Hitler in this world, somewhere in this world now, we're hoping that this time we can stop him from doing something, because everybody, all the youth is watching, you know, and it's very difficult for Hitler to operate.
John, may I ask you a question, please?
Yes.
You are now endowed with more influence over young people in the world than all the bishops and rabbis and priests put together. That is true. Do you ever feel any sense of almost of fright at the power that you have? You have a tremendous influence and power.
Well,
you are one of the most powerful men in the world. I mean that on all sincerity.
It's an abstract power, you know, and it's like if we have something specific sometimes we'd like to use the power for, say we wanted to plug a certain product that wasn't peace, and I say sort of contact any press I know and try and get it over, it's a good chance it won't work. So I haven't got a power that I can get hold of and do something with. I have an abstract power that I can't get hold of and do something with,
But you're using it now for peace, and I think the whole world should be very grateful to you and Yoko for doing it.
Well, thank you for that, you know, but...
Geoffrey Giuliano is the author of some 30 internationally best-selling books on the Beatles, John Lennon, and other iconic musicians of the 1960s. In 2006, his book, Paint It Black, The Murder of Brian Jones, was made into a film by Stephen Woolley and Nick Powell entitled Stoned, The Wild and Wicked World of Brian Jones. It remains a cult classic and the only film bio of the Rolling Stones. Giuliano is also a veteran journalist, having written for dozens of high-profile newspapers and magazines, including The Sunday People, The Daily Mail, The News of the World, The Mail on Sunday, Playgirl, and Rolling Stone. A noted film actor, Giuliano starred in such movies as Vikingdom, Scorpion King 3, Jules Verne's The Mysterious Island, The Fifth Execution, Far Cry 3, Fire Fire Desire, among many. In addition, he hosted the long-running North American syndicated radio series, Geoffrey Giuliano's Roots of Rock, for 5 years, as well as pioneering the audiobook industry in the 1990s by authoring, narrating, and producing over 250 original, non-book-based, interview-driven productions. Giuliano's publishers included Random House, HarperCollins, Delta Entertainment, Durkin Hayes, Playaway Audio, Speechworks, and B&B Audio, among dozens more internationally. In 1998, Random House acquired his firm Tribute Audio, for which Giuliano acted as CEO and publisher for 5 years. His best-selling audiobook, That Fateful Night, True Stories of Titanic Survivors in Their Own Words, was nominated for a Grammy. In 2014, Geoffrey Giuliano founded Icon Editions and G2 Media Arts to market his updated works as well as publish new projects. As a visual artist, Geoffrey has been showing in galleries across America since 1977, garnering impressive reviews. His first professional assignment was designing several T-shirts for The Who's Pete Townsend in 1976. Geoffrey also designed and illustrated many of his original rock biographies for the biggest publishers in the world from 1984 to 2006, as well as designing for his pioneering record label, Samba Records, in the mid-1990s. From 2006 to 2011, Geoffrey was also the primary designer for the French fashion house Cotai. When Giuliano first conceived of creating his own literary imprint, Icon Editions, he became responsible for illustrating and designing 35 book covers, several hundred CDs, DVDs, as well as dozens of promotional posters, and eventually an entire collection of exclusive fashion and art. The expansive Design by Giuliano brand grew out of Geoffrey's impressive commitment to the arts and is the culmination of a lifetime's work by an extraordinarily talented and determined Renaissance man.
Peach and Love Records. Thank you for listening.